more than just a beverage. For many of us, it's part of our morning rhythms. It wakes us up. It warms us on a cold day. Its delicate flavors inspire. But coffee is more than that. We grab coffee with our friends. Those stories are shared over coffee. Coffee is part of traditions and gatherings. And worldwide, we drink over 500 billion cups of coffee every year. How often do we stop and think about what actually goes into a cup of coffee? We live in an interconnected world. Globalization is the fabric of modern society. Our coffees come from all over the world, so the very coffee in your cup connects you to a global community. Now, our world is running out of clean water, and right now, coffee is part of the problem, but I think that coffee can also be part of the solution. In my talk, I want to connect you to the world water crisis through your cup of coffee. I'm going to do this by taking you on a journey of my encounter with the water crisis and sharing the story of Mariposa Coffee Roastery. To be honest, we weren't really planning on starting a coffee business. We were grad students, newlyweds, just wanted to give back to the community, but we were broke. We didn't even have money for an actual coffee roaster. So we did what broke and determined people do. We built one out of a barbecue grill and a rotisserie kit. Yes, it's true. So this is my husband and business partner, Daniel. And you see, we both loved coffee. Daniel was a home roaster, and he was fascinated with the transformation of the coffee. And when he met me in college, I was that girl that was part of letter writing campaigns to end genocide and social justice-y stuff. So social justice was important to our marriage. And we thought, surely there's a way we could take our hobby and turn it into something that could help others. So we'd roast small batches of coffee and give the proceeds away. Well, our community encouraged us to turn our tiny operation into a business concept, and even helped us raise funds for the roaster that we use today. After we saved up, we moved our roaster out of our friend's garage and into a roasting space. Our first task then was to make sure that the water from our pipes met industry standards. So I have this vivid memory of Daniel under the sink late one night, and he spent countless hours tinkering with the filtration system, titrating the water just to get every single drop just perfect. Because you see, coffee comes from cherries that have to be hand-picked and depulped and dried and milled and sorted and undergoes 20 years, some steps before it makes its way into your cup. So after all the sweat that's been poured into that coffee, the last thing that any micro-roaster wants is to misrepresent the taste of it by either roasting it poorly or brewing it with subpar water. Water is incredibly important to coffee. In fact, according to National Geographic, 37 gallons of water goes into 1 cup of coffee. And putting all of this effort into our own water system made me curious if people in coffee-growing regions around the world had access to clean water. While water is necessary to enjoy coffee, it is vital to life. So I contacted Water4, a local nonprofit. They put me in touch with a coffee-growing community in Rwanda called Nyaruguru. Now, Nyaruguru isn't just any coffee-growing district. They won the Cup of Excellence Award in 2011. This is like the Olympics of coffee. This is coffee that a tiny business like ours can't even afford. I saw a bag of it selling for $30 a pound in Chicago, and I remember thinking, surely this coffee from some of the most expensive coffee in the world must have everything that they need. Well, Water4 took some pictures from Rwanda and they sent it to us, and it turns out that the water source in Nyaruguru was unprotected, which means that the water could be potentially contaminated with parasites or pathogens. So the people there can't enjoy their award-winning coffee, and their lives are on the line each time they thirst. See, I made an assumption that if you win awards, you won't have issues with water. But I was wrong, and the more I investigated, the more I saw how marginalized these people were, and the more I saw how many social justice issues were linked to this access to clean water, and I saw how it impacted their daily lives. You see, specialty coffee is grown at higher altitudes, and I learned from our coffee importers that while coffee regions are lush, the mountain water is unsafe to drink. So just imagine what it's like to hike down to your nearest water source and haul a 40-pound jerry can of water back up the mountain. This can take nearly 2 hours in Nyaruguru. And the burden of thirst rests on women and children. The hours spent collecting water keeps children out of school. So I started thinking, is it possible to break out of a cycle of poverty if you can't attend school? How am I going to ever effectively advocate for education or gender equality or health if the thing they need is clean water? And worst, what good are the shoes or books or dresses or things that I like to give if the thing that they need is access to clean water? Here's a snapshot of the world water crisis. There are many sides to this crisis, and more than we have time for, so just focus on the dark blue regions of this map. These are areas of economic water scarcity. The people living in these regions don't have access to water in their homes, and they lack the means to access clean water. Now, there are a lot of statistics out there when it comes to this water crisis, but as a mother, I was heartbroken when I learned that a child dies every 21 seconds due to a water-related illness. And just picture a child that you know. Because by the end of my talk, 28 children will no longer be alive. And they die mostly of diarrhea, which is something that can be fixed with access to clean water. Here's a map of where all the coffee is grown in the world. It's consolidated into what's called the coffee growing belt. There is an overlap in areas where coffee is grown and areas of economic water scarcity. This overlap is significant because coffee is the second most traded commodity in the world. So while Daniel and I are just tiny fish in a huge pond, the coffee industry is a $20 billion industry. If they work together, they can do something. They're powerful enough to do something about economic water scarcity. For us, when we roast our coffee, our goal is to honor the hard work that's been poured into every single coffee bean that's gone before us. And so, we'll craft our coffee in small batches, and we'll tinker with our water system for hours because we think that we thought that we could honor their hard work if each one of you could taste the delicate notes of coffee, the berry notes and the chocolate notes. And, but then we had this realization that while we're tinkering with our water system, the very people producing our coffee might not be alive to see the next harvest because they might not have clean water to drink. The very thing that we're using to represent their hard work. See, all of us in this room are connected to this issue, even if you don't drink coffee, because many of the commodities we consume, like sugar or chocolate, also come from regions of economic water scarcity. But how often do we stop and think about the people on the other end of our products and whether or not they have something like water? The more I thought about the people on the other end of our coffee, the more I cared about them. So in the face of this injustice, we thought the most effective way of reversing it was to build wells through sustainable and local partnerships. And we were a small startup, so we had to set aside a little money every month, and it took us about 2 years before we could install one well through Water 4. And like I said, the solution to this water crisis is complex and multifaceted, but our catalyst for action came when we felt a sense of responsibility. The truth is, these people are part of our global community, and we care for them. We are aware of their plight, and we want to fight for them. And it just starts with a connection. While coffee is our livelihood, for you it might just be coffee that you grab on your way to work or class. How often do we think about how wide our network of dependence stretches? And if we really consider how our lives are impacted by coffee, does it bother us that the people behind it might not have clean water to drink? And can we connect to the consequences that they face? Many of us care where our food is grown, where our clothes are made, where our music comes from. Why should coffee be any different? When you connect to the coffee in your cup, do you know where your coffee's from? Who does the roasting? Is your local coffee community aware that they can have an impact on economic water scarcity? At Mariposa, we say drink local, think global, because we believe that local choices and local actions can have a global impact. So let's start a grassroots movement that begins with this connection. A lot of people are doing lots of great things. More people are aware and taking action. The water-related death rates in children have dropped over the past 4 years, and it's because of collective action. Do we believe that progress is a result of individual actions that amount to a greater impact? If we allow the rights of one person to be violated, it puts at risk the rights and liberties of all. So I challenge you to look at your coffee differently and to start conversations. The next time you grab coffee with a friend, talk about that cup of coffee. Talk about where the coffee's from and whether or not people on the other end have clean water to drink, the very thing we brew and enjoy our coffee with here. You see, sometimes I get discouraged because I feel insignificant, I feel ordinary, and I thought that partnerships were beyond the reach of a small business like Mariposa. But I started a conversation with Daniel that led to conversations with the community and to Water 4. By beginning a conversation, we were able to alleviate this water crisis, if only in just a small way. See, conversations give life to ideas. Conversations matter. We are just one tiny roastery, but imagine if our industry collectively worked together and did something about this issue. If all 31,000 coffee shops and roasteries in the US set aside just $10 a day, by the end of 1 year, that would amount to over $112 million, which would bring 11.6 million people access to clean water. Now's the time to act. Each one of you is a doer, a thinker, an innovator. You're here because you want to make a difference. And with collective action, we can end economic water scarcity. Let's connect to the global issues that are embodied by this cup of coffee and start conversations with our friends and family and local community. Every world-changing idea started as a conversation. So drink local, but think global. Thank you.